So buddy, you'll hear this a lot from coaches. They'll say, always be selling. And I would say, throw that crap in the garbage. So if I send the high-end guy to the low-end place, they're gonna flip him out over the price. I wanna make sure I'm getting the guy that communicates well. If he doesn't return my phone call, he's not gonna return your phone call, and then you're gonna have people that are frustrated and aggravated.
Are you telling me that you can actually have fun doing real estate? All right, Buddy Buck here, back with another episode. We are gonna film the second of a three-part series with one of my favorite people on earth. Let me just kick right into it. This guy is one of the best trainers and coaches. He is the Senior Director of Growth for eXp Realty for the entire United States. He is teaching us today, and I am super excited to talk about the Contractors Edition of this three-part series. So with that, my buddy, Mr. Russ Lagan.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. So recipe number 2 dovetails with recipe 1. Recipe 1 is having a good real estate market update. And then once you got a really good real estate market update, the second thing we need to start thinking is, well, gee, I'm a real estate agent and I work with houses, and shoot, something that comes up all the time is there's stuff wrong with the house, right? So what I started doing with my team back in the day was to start getting them to build out a preferred contractor list. So when we had somebody that did a good job, we'd put them on our list. So now I'm thinking, well, gee, buddy, well, we really want to take our business to the next level. Why don't we build out a contractor list intentionally? And a couple of things that does for us that's really important. Number one, it gives us something to do on social media that's not, look at me, I'm a realtor, which I love, right? It's, hey, I'm Russ the realtor, building a contractor list so I can help promote other people's business and I can help solve problems before they even come up. Now you've got a shift in the way people perceive you, not just self-promoting like real estate agents get known for all the time, but we also get the ability to give back. How often does the average American move, buddy? Do you know?
Say about every 7 years.
Typically, historically, it's been plus or minus around about every 7 years, right? So during COVID, things shortened up. A bunch of people moved all over the place, right? And directly after that, they're like, hey, if I can work remote, I'm changing things, right? Or, hey, I'm living in a house and I have to work remote and my wife is in the next room and I'm driving her nuts all the time. So instead of me working in the garage, let's get a house that works out better, okay? So with that said, the average American moves about every 7 years. Buddy, you have a house, right?
Yes, sir.
How often does stuff break on your house?
Oh boy, more than I wish it would. I would say probably somewhere 5 to 10 times a year, just random things here and there.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the list of what I got going on right now. I've got an electrician's been in my house twice for a couple different issues. I had a plumbing guy out because we had another thing, right? I had a tub refinish guy because I've got a 1953 bathroom that's right behind this wall with this cool tile that I refuse to rip out. And the only way to get the tub out would be to rip the tile out, and I don't want to do that because it's a cool little retro bathroom. So we had the tub refinish. So we got little things like that, and then we had some windows replaced, and then we had a window blind guy in the house. I mean, it just keeps on going and going and going and going, right? So with that said, would it be safe to say that it wouldn't be unusual to have 7 things a year go wrong with your house?
I think that would seem pretty normal, honestly.
Pretty normal or reasonably conservative, right? So if that's the case, think about it like this. You guys have heard of Grant Cardone?
Yep.
I like to bust this guy's chops. One day he's gonna walk up to me, he's like, dude, really? Seriously? I have $1 billion. Listen, he's got more money than me, but I still like to pick on him. So Grant Cardone built this thing out, and it was all based around 10x everything. So it's just that get exponential in everything in your life. So instead of just like half-assing anything, 10x everything, right? So I'm just like, all right, cool, fine. So if you have one thing, one time every 7 years you can connect with a buyer or seller for selling a house, but you have 7 times every year something breaks, this is 49x more contact with that customer over the span of 7 years. But it's a matter of saying, how do I become a resource when they don't always need a house? But if I'm the always house guy channel all day, every day, then it eliminates a bunch of opportunities where they can see me as not only the house guy, but they can also see me as the buy sell house guy, but they can also see me as a resource for everything house related.
Right.
So buddy, I put together a list, a contractor list. By the way, I actually counted it recently, and there's 93 different contractors / trade / people that touch that house on my list. 93.
Wow.
Okay? So think of it like this. Here's how the recipe works. You need to get at least a minimum of 1 of each of these people, because at some point somebody's going to need these people in a house. Okay, let's go on social now. I prefer Facebook for this because it works really well and it actually helps you hack the algorithm. And I'm going to post, hey, I'm Russ Lagan, the real estate dude, and part of my job is making sure I have resources for my people. So I'm building a preferred contractor list to help them solve problems that they may have with their house during the process of buying, the process of selling, or after they buy the house. They're going to live in it for a while. I just want to make sure people know, if you need anybody, reach out to me. I've got a preferred contractor list. Cool. So now I can go into social and say, I'm looking specifically for a high-end plumber, or I'm looking specifically for a plumber. They need to be nice, they need to be reasonable, they need to communicate well, and they need to be a good price. What's going to happen is people in social are going to start dropping you their people. And when they drop you somebody in social, then and I will comment after that, hey buddy, thanks for that, really appreciate that. And then I go into Buddy's private messages and I hit Buddy and say, Buddy, thank you so much for that referral. Have you personally used them recently? I don't want to out them all in the thing, so I can do personal. It gives me a reason to hit them in private message, and I want to ask the additional question. The reason I want to ask that is because if they haven't used them personally, why are they recommending them? So that gives me the ability to, number one, I do the post, then people reach out to me because they want to give, and I make it easy for them. Then I thank them for that, and then when I hit them with a private message, Facebook goes, wow, algorithm hack, and everything you do for the next 2 or 3 days goes straight to the top of their feed. And the reason being is because Facebook's now going, wait a minute, he posted something, they connected again, then they connected in Messenger. These people are serious. Let's make sure that they're seeing each other on a regular basis. And that's one of the beautiful ways you can hack Facebook, okay? So with that said, also what's going to happen is, buddy, I'm going to get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 8, 10, 12 different recommendations, depending on how your sphere is set up in Facebook or in your social. So what happens is I can do that to every one of them. And then, by the way, just in case you don't get it, I also do a real estate market update. I'll make sure you get that too as a thanks to you, so you know what's going on in the market. So now I take recipe 1, I do recipe 2, and in the process of doing recipe 2, I've gotten the ability to actually leverage that into recipe number 1. And now I can start adding these people into my sphere of influence and or making sure they're seeing my real estate market update. So buddy, instead of me saying, look at me, I'm a realtor, I'm adding value. People are offering to give me stuff. I'm thanking them and then giving them something in return.
I did have one quick side question on the algorithm, the hack. So does that work if, like, let's just say you have a Facebook group for your city. If you did a similar post in a Facebook group, does it work the same way, or does it just work best if it's on your profile?
For me, I want to use my profile. I mean, not everybody in your profile is in your city group, so I want to make sure I hit the broadest cross section possible. My city group's great, but I want everybody to see that I'm a real estate agent. Actually, I even want people that are seeing me outside of the state that I'm just adding value, because who knows, man? Somebody in Oregon might see you and say, dude, I want to move up. Maybe that guy can help me, right?
That's right.
So you start to make as many connections as possible. So I want to cast the net as wide as possible, and then I'm going to narrow them down only to people that I understand are good, okay? So here's the fun part, buddy. A lot of people say, well, Russ, if I get 10 plumbers, I don't need 10 plumbers. Well, let's kind of do this a little, let's go 10x mindset on this too, right? Okay, I've got a list of 93 and you do a post for one particular type of trade. Now, buddy, is there a difference between a high-end plumber and a low-end fix and flip plumber?
100%, yes.
So I really need a high-end plumber and I need a fix and flip plumber, because they're gonna be two different types of people, right? Fix and flip plumber is gonna be dealing with the Price Pfister stuff and the Home Depot stuff and the Lowe's stuff. Also going to show up, it's gonna be the best price in town. However, if I give him a 10-jet water system that goes into a shower with a control panel, might not be his wheelhouse, right? So I do need the high-end guy to do the high-end stuff. So if I send the high-end guy to the low-end place, they're gonna flip him out over the price. If I send the low-end guy to the high-end place, it's not the right customer match. They're both necessary and both needed, and I want to make sure I have both and I get the right person on the job. So I got a high-end person and a low-end person. So here, buddy, this 93 turns into like 180, right? Now I got 180 potential adds to my contacts. The next part of this is really kind of simple, right? My guy that's high-end is good, right? Better be. So do I need a backup? Yep. So I need 2 high-end and I need 2 low-end, which means I got 4 of each, which means I have somewhere in the range of 360 different people I can add to my sphere of influence by just taking that and multiplying that out. So here's the fun part, buddy. Not only am I able to cross-promote other people's businesses, which makes me look good as a real estate person, not just a gimme, gimme, gimme. I'm building stuff for you, so I'm giving and adding value. But I also get to say, hey, I'm Russ the Realtor a bunch of times, and people don't get sick of it, which is great. But we're looking at adding 360 people into our sphere of influence over the span of the next year by just doing this on a consistent basis and building out this list. This is something, when you get a couple minutes of downtime, you could throw the post in. And then what I'd do is I would block out a couple times a week, buddy. I would block out like a 90-minute block on Monday, and then I'd block out another 90-minute block on Thursday, and make sure that I'm getting this done intentionally. That's 3 hours total for the week. I'm gonna break it down in 2 blocks. The first one, I'm gonna do the post real quick, and then once I do the post, then I can do that follow-up, reply, hit them in private message, make sure you offer them the real estate market update, get some of that engagement going. And if you can do this intentionally over the span of a year, what's going to happen is you're going to probably have somewhere in the range of 150, 200 people easy added to your sphere of influence and contractor list. Now, here's the fun part. People are going to reach out to you, buddy, and start going, hey, buddy, do you have a whatever? And my response sometimes is, actually, no, I don't have one of those. Well, let me find us one. So now I can proactively throw in that and move that around within my business and use that as add and fill in, right? We all have some downtime, and in your downtime, you need to make sure you're optimizing that downtime so you know you're done every day, right? Get that stuff done and get the ball moving. So I want you to start tracking on this, and you should be looking at adding between 15 and 20 of these per week. So when you get that contractor, then I'm gonna do a quick follow-up call to the contractor, and it's gonna go something like this. Hey, this is Russ Lagan, the real estate dude. I'm building a preferred contractor list, and my friend Buddy mentioned that you were his favorite plumber, and I just wanted to ask your permission that I could add you to my preferred plumber for my contractor list. Just give me a quick call back. I want to just make sure we're on the same page, and then I'll get you on that list. Does that sound good? Don't worry, I'm not selling anything. Here's the fun part, buddy. How do you know if a plumber communicates well?
Calls you back.
Yeah, what you're gonna find is that the plumber that doesn't respond is not the one that communicates well. So I wanna make sure I'm getting the guy that communicates well. If he doesn't return my phone call, he's not gonna return your phone call, and then you're gonna have people that are frustrated and aggravated. And you don't want that, right? So there you go. That's the beginning part of this. Now, here's the other fun part of this. I can make sure when I talk to that contractor, say, hey, by the way, I do a real estate market update every single month that will actually help you know what's going on in the real estate world. Because I'm sure every once in a while you bump into somebody and they're saying, hey, yeah, we're doing this to sell our house. And now you'll have some knowledge for yourself and for other people that are talking to you about real estate. There's a guy that wrote a book called Upstream Model. I'm gonna draw a blank on what his name is real quick. Like the guy a ton, super brilliant thinking process. And he's like, who knows somebody's selling their house before I do as a realtor? Well, the guy that's replacing the carpet, right?
It was Justin Stoddard wrote that.
There you go. That's Justin. Exactly. I was like, Justin, that's brilliant, brother. That's absolutely brilliant. So some of these contractors will actually bump into people prior to them calling you, because they're like, hey, I want to get that cleaned up. I don't want Buddy to see that we live like this. Or, hey, we've been waiting to do this, this, and this, and now that we're going to sell the house, let's get a couple of those little things buttoned up. Interior paint touch-ups, carpet touch-ups, whatever that may be. That little leak under the sink that we've been not doing, let's get that handled first. So there's a lot of contractors that get in, and they know the person's selling before I even find out they're selling. So this is a great resource to have contractors to be able to drive some business to you. Now, in the real estate market update, and adding this and then adding recipe 3, typically we find we can get our sphere of influence to convert at around 10% when we're doing a really good job. So now, buddy, I can run my sphere of influence. If I have 200 people in my sphere of influence and I have 20 sales coming out of that, that means I'm doing a great job delivering value consistently. If I only have 10 sales, then that means I need to do a better job of adding value. Now, here's the fun part. The contractor list doesn't typically convert at 20%. It converts at more like 5%, but that's still 18 sales if I manage that contractor list if you get the full 360 people on that list. Now, you might say, okay, that's cool. What do I do with it other than that? Number one, I'm gonna make sure everybody always knows I have a contractor list out there. Number two, now when I go into a listing appointment, buddy, I'm gonna have a conversation that goes like this. Hey, as a professional real estate agent, I know for a fact that you've probably got some stuff wrong with your house. I know that because I have stuff wrong with my house, and I try to stay on top of it too. So in the process of getting the property ready, there's a couple of things that we may want to do with the house before we go on the market, so we don't have to take a big hit from the buyer. Or if you're saying, hey, I don't want to do anything to the house, no problem, we're gonna sell the house as is. There's no surprises that you're aware of, right? Right, cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna sell the house as is, and then when the buyer comes in, the buyer's gonna wanna do an inspection on the house, and that inspector's gonna find some stuff wrong with the house. And the one thing that we can do is, number one, we can then choose to either say, nope, take it or leave it. In a seller's market, you can do that. But when it's a buyer's market, the buyer's gonna beat you into doing a lot of this stuff on the house. We have a resource for it, and we can get stuff fixed in a reasonable manner. As a matter of fact, I've got 3 handymen on my list, and most of the time, most of the little stuff can be fixed in 3 or 4 hours with one guy and only $300 or $400. So we can eliminate a lot of things that come up, and anytime a problem comes up, we've already got a solution in place. Sound good? Now I'm white glove. I'm a white glove system with my listing. I stand out when two people go to the listing appointment, buddy, and I have that conversation and you didn't. That person would be like, well, dang, I'm going to use Russ because Russ is already solving problems before they come up. Here's the other fun part. When the buyer's agent has the list go through and they say, well, Russ, there's a whole bunch of stuff on this list. Great. Do you have a list of preferred contractors? Because I can give you a couple of my preferred contractors to help you solve that problem for your buyer. Now I'm a resource for the other agent also. Okay, so I'm a resource for the seller. I'm a resource for the other agent. I still haven't had to fix anything. I love that.
Right.
When I'm working on the buyer side, buddy, I've got the contractor list and I'm going to say, hey, by the way, when we go into this house, we're going to get this house, we're going to negotiate the deal, we're going to get it under contract, we're going to book an inspection, and when the inspector goes out there, buddy, guess what's going to happen? They're going to find a GFCI that doesn't work. They're going to find a balancer on one of the windows that's popped and nobody knew about it. They're going to find some caulk issues, and the caulk needs to be touched up around the house. And they're going to find that one stupid box in the attic that nobody knows who put it in there, but it doesn't have a cover plate on it. Okay? They're going to always find that stuff in almost every single house I've ever been in. So when we go in and do the inspection, we're going to find a list of little things. The cool part is they're selling the house as is. If it's a small list and it's under $500 worth of stuff, we're just going to smile and say, thank you very much. We're good to go. We'll get my handyman. I've got a couple handymen. You can grab them, have them go in there and button up a lot of the little details that you need buttoned up. Good. So now we've prepped them for there's going to be issues so they don't freak out. We've also prepped them for we've already got a solution in place. And we also prepped them for you're not going to renegotiate over a stupid broken outlet, which we know happens all the time in the real estate business. Right. So now the buyer thinks we're a resource and the buyer thinks we're a solution. We're solving problems that haven't even come up yet. And we get them to the point where they feel more confident and comfortable because when the inspection report comes back, they're going to be like, dude, do you have a crystal ball? You called that one, Russ. Yes, I did. I've seen this so many times. I already know what's coming.
Right.
Just having that contractor list gives me the ability to stand out. How many other buyer's agents do you know do that and already have these problems solved? And by the way, as a buyer's agent, buddy, I already have a list of preferred contractors. So when our inspector goes in and looks at this stuff, he's going to find the common stuff wrong. My buyer and I are going to look at it and be like, already saw that coming. No big deal. And we're going to take that baby to closing. So now the listing agent loves me as a buyer's agent. So I've got a bunch of different reasons why I can use this and leverage this to take my business to the next level. And that's why you build a contractor list.
Hey, I have a question. You mentioned fun about 6 times. Are you telling me that you can actually have fun doing real estate? Is this a real thing?
Well, I do. I know.
I mean, I do too. So I'm with you. It's just kind of interesting. Something, so heavy and serious, and it's the biggest transaction of their life. But it can still be enjoyable. I just believe that. So I love when you keep saying that.
Buddy, you played baseball a little bit, right?
Yeah, I played at University of Washington.
What's the hardest pitch to hit?
Oh gosh, anything over 95 for me. But yeah, something that moves. Yeah, probably slider down in the dirt.
Slider down in the dirt, right? Okay, so if you know a slider down in the dirt is coming, is it easier to hit?
Absolutely. Or it's easier to lay off of it, for sure, yeah.
So you're like, hey, by the way, buddy, I'm going to throw you a slider down in the dirt. You got 2 choices. You can either swing at that thing knowing what's coming, or you can just sit back and watch for the next one, because the next one I'm going to throw a fastball right down the pipe. It's going to be 96 just to mess you up, right? So this is the equivalent of knowing what they're throwing at you, right? So if I tell the seller, here's what the pitch is that's coming, it's going to be way easier for the seller to hit it and feel comfortable. Hey, I know what's coming, right? I know I'm going to have to swing low if it's going to be a slider. So once you know how to hit a slider, you're like, come on, man, bring it. And that's what this does. It sets you up to know what's coming and prep your sellers for what's coming, prep your buyers for what's coming, and prep the other agents you're dealing with for what's coming. And it makes you look good from a bunch of different directions. And buddy, it's super simple, and almost nobody's doing this in the business.
So, Russ, where does this tie in? I think because you and I've been working on these recipes. You taught me this at the beginning of the year, and so short version is we needed some new garage doors. So, we converted our garage into a gym. It started with COVID, of course. Thanks COVID for the gym, I guess. And so we had these high lift doors put in. And, I did that. I asked on the Facebook group, asked around, and there was a local, garage door guy that has lived here his whole life, basically, born and raised. And so I'm like, this is the guy. And so came highly referred, fixed our garage doors up, did a beautiful job. And he was super cool. And we just like, I'm like, this could actually be my friend. You know what I mean? So we're just like, kind of broing down and just, texting after the deal's over and just stayed in touch. And a full year later, which is now this year, ended up listing his home and sold that for $650, and then got him into a purchase in town for $1.36 million. So we hired them to do a great job on our house, and then it turned into $2 million in business because we kept that relationship together throughout the year. And we're just being cool, like we're just being friends. And the crazy part, Russ, is as it turns out, after all these deals closed, talking to his wife and talking to him, she's like, dude, do you know how many realtors that we know? And I'm the new guy, you know what I mean? I just met this guy like a year ago. So that's a compliment to you and the system, and just building those relationships are super important.
So, buddy, you'll hear this a lot from coaches. They'll say, always be selling, right? And I would say, throw that crap in the garbage. That went the way of the dodo bird in the 90s. My thing would be like, always be human. So make the connection, build the relationship, and do a good job and connect with people.
All right, so there you go. There's recipe number 2 of 3. Stay tuned, because number 3 is coming right around the corner. Buddy Buck, peace.